Hello and welcome to the Crit to Block podcast. We are your hosts, Eric Maylott
and Richard Lavery,
here to bring you in-depth conversation about competitive list building for Star Wars Legion. We have quite the show for you today because, obviously, it's our first episode.
Woohoo! For those of you that don't already know us, you can find us at our Crit to Block YouTube channel, where we post battle reports and learn to play videos. On crittoblock.com, where we have blog articles and a shop for any of your Legion t-shirt related needs. And we're also the hosts of the Legion HQ2 list building website.
Since this is our first episode, we're just going to be giving you a little bit of background on ourselves, our group, and what we hope to provide for the Legion community. So, Richard, you are perhaps our most widely recognized member. We can start with you. Who are you? What factions do you play? And what is your favorite unit in the game currently?
So, like I said, my name's Richard Lavery. I've been playing Legion since day one. I picked the starter box up from my local game store the first day it released. I didn't play too much within the community for the first little bit. I think I got really active in 2019 and then started doing tournaments early 2020. And then through the pandemic, you and I actually played quite a bit. And that's where I think truly fell in love with the game.
Yeah, I feel like you started being competitive when you met me, obviously. That must have been it.
I mean, listen, I owe a lot of what I've been able to do, my success in this game, to that early days training with you. You know, we were playing once or twice a week for 2 years throughout the pandemic. So
our COVID Legion regimen was pretty great, not gonna lie.
It was robust. we got a lot done. Those were interesting times, to be sure. But no, so what factions do I play? So I play Empire, I play Separatists, and I play Republic. I've never really been much of a Rebel player. I don't think I have any recorded games with them, and I have a whopping 2 games recorded with Shadow Collective. And I believe both of those were partial games where I picked up for someone who had to walk away.
Yes, like I was about to beat Chris, and you stepped in when we were recording and beat me with your crafty Maul play that I know Chris would not have seen.
Yeah, you know, I love Chris to death, misses some of those things, but you know, that's okay. Yeah, I play all of them. I'm probably most well known for the work that I did with the Wookiee Defenders for about 1.5 years. Took them to a lot of final tables, but not quite winning any conventions. Really love the Wookiees. Rest in peace right now. That Battle Force needs some help. But that's okay. My favorite unit in the game currently, that is a tough one. I'm going to go with a really unconventional pick just because of the list that I'm currently playing and planning on bringing to a few events coming up. The Republic Lat.
Richard.
I know.
I knew you were going to say that as soon as you said unconventional. But
listen, it's shockingly better than I thought it was.
Yeah, but favorite unit in the game?
Right now, I'm thoroughly enjoying playing that unit.
Okay.
It might be crazy.
Partially your favorite because of the troll factor and nobody thinks
yes.
Okay. All right.
Absolutely.
So you're one of those.
Yes. Well, so, you know, one of the things I try to do, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, is, you know, I really try to make the units that everyone, you know, maybe puts to the side because they're not as competitive or efficient as other units. And I try to make them work in some variation of a list. And so the Lat is my current project right now. I've done a few other things in the past. So right now, it's just from number of games played, honestly. Mm-hmm. I get the feeling that's going to be changing later this year because there's a lot of juicy things coming out. But enough about me, Eric. What about you?
I am Eric Maylott. I don't go to too many events. I definitely don't win them, so I'm not as well known in the community as a whole. But I have been playing Rebels since the game came out. I did pick up a Shadow Collective army along the way. But yeah, I go back and forth. Sometimes I'm in a mood for Shadow Collective. A lot of times I'm in the mood for Rebels. And especially with the recent update. So my go-to list back in original Legion was my Jyn K2 triple Pathfinders list.
Don't I know it?
Loved them to death. So obviously that list no longer works. But the re-release of Jyn has put her back on the table for me. She really fell off in 2.6 or New Legion, whatever it is called now. I feel like she just didn't really do what I don't know. She didn't mesh in an army the way I was vibing, even though I loved her as a unit. But the rework has filled me with love. I think New Jyn is a lot of fun, and she is definitely my favorite unit in the game right now. But yeah, that's my bread and butter is Jyn, Rebels in general, and I mean Cassian and K2 are like a close second tier favorite.
I mean, really anything coming out of Rogue One you have been in love with since the day they dropped.
Yeah,
honestly.
I mean, Rogue One is my favorite movie for sure.
For good reason.
Cassian is... I love him as a character. I think he's like pretty okay in Legion, and it hurts my heart that like he's probably the first thing of my current list that I'm ditching to like try and get something a little stronger in there. But we'll cover that more in the future. But yeah, I mean, Cassian and K2 are fun. They're okay. Jyn is a lot of fun, and I love what she does on the table. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit about me. I guess, Richard, what do you think our podcast is aiming to try and bring to the community here? What's our goal?
Sure, absolutely. So we're really focused on the list building aspect and the strategy. A lot of Legion communities across the country, across the globe, are experiencing growth right now. There's a lot of new players. I know our local scene has had, I think we're up to like 8 to 10 new players over the last year, which is really exciting. And one of the things we keep getting asked is, how do we take that next step? How do we get to the next level? How can we have that conversation about strategy and those fundamentals of list building that those of us in the community have had years to fine tune and work on? How do we teach that? And we thought there was an opportunity to really, start that conversation and really spread some of that knowledge, specifically aimed at helping those newer players get up, especially the ones that want to enter the tournament scene, either at the convention level or even just the local store level. What we're not going to be focusing on is battle reports. We're going to try and keep the episodes kind of narrowed in on a given topic. That topic, changing each and every week. Although we might be talking about specific examples and scenarios, from some previous games, in order to give real life experience to what we're talking about.
Yeah, and no shade to any podcast out there who does battle reports or promotes tournaments for 10 minutes, however long. Like, that's all important work too. We just feel like, we're going to try and be a little bit different and cater more specifically to our targeted theme for the episode. So
we'll take the 30 to 40 minute corner of the market.
Yeah,
instead
exactly.
Of the 2 hour plus corner.
So for our first episode, I guess let's just start things off. We did kind of basic intros, but let's talk about lists we're currently playing and I guess how we went about creating it, strengths, weaknesses that we had to account for. And let's just share with the world what we are currently rocking.
Sure. And this is the point where you want me sharing some of this, correct?
Oh, yes. We could share our screens. That's a great point.
Excellent. So let's go ahead and get that.
For those of you on YouTube, we will be sharing screens to show the list.
Yeah, I'll read it out real quick.
Or I should say, for those of you not on YouTube.
For those of you not on YouTube. Those who are just listening to our voices, thank you. But Here's the list. It's called Live, Lat, Love. So it's got Clone Commander Cody, a generic Clone Commander with improvised orders, 2 Clone Trooper Infantry with the Z6, a Clone Trooper Infantry with the shotgun and environmental gear, Clone Trooper Infantry, nothing on it, 2 ARC Troopers with the Jedi Guardians, an ARC Trooper with Ahsoka Tano. And I should note at this point, this is an update to the list quite literally this week as I picked up Ahsoka. So it's slightly different if you've encountered this before. But then there's 2 ATRTs with the laser cannon. And then, of course, the LAT with bunker buster shells, armor piercing shells, and link targeting array. It's 12 activations, 1,000 points on the dot. So one of the things I was talking about a little bit earlier is when we get kind of a lull in releases, I love to ask our group, what is a piece that I should be building a list with? And they usually give me what they think is the worst piece out there at the time to try and make work. So the most recent challenge was the LAT, specifically the Republic LAT. Try to find a home.
Do you remember who gave you this challenge, or was this a self-assigned challenge? Because you also do that sometimes.
No, I believe originally it was Michael Corrin who gave the challenge, and then that was signed off by Travis and Tyler.
Classic.
So yeah, I basically started with that piece, and the first question is how do you make it work? Cody's the obvious example, or the obvious choice for this, because of the direct. It's going to give that LAT the order every turn, which is going to give it an aim every turn. From there, it was all about experimenting with different upgrades, different loadouts to see what works. 3 arcs is almost a necessity within Republic. They are cheap. They are good. It is a majority of the Pierce that my list can find in Melee. They're great token generators turn 1 if I want to get some shots off with other clones, whether that's Cody or the Z6s or the shotgun. There's just a lot of options with 3 ARC Troopers that I really like. And they're a threat that the opponent has to address. Because either they don't address it, and the ARCs run around doing whatever they want, or they do address them, and then the rest of the list is operating without any issue. And ARCs are still hard to remove from the board, even if you are...
Yeah, I was going to say, I think of ARCs as, like, in the same vein as I think of sleepers, where, like, at their price point and what they do, you need a really good reason not to take them.
Yes.
If you're trying to be competitive. And obviously sleepers are a bit more glass cannon, as I'll talk about in my list because I have sleepers. And like you said, arcs are still pretty tricky to get off the table because red dice can be red dice sometimes. So.
Absolutely. One of the other things I was really impressed with this list was the ATRTs. The Republic ATRT is cheap. Impact 3 is great because this list has some anti-armor options in the form of the LAT with the armor piercing shells. But the ATRT's value for how cheap it is and for its ability to really like start contributing turn 1, and then its red saves, so its survivability is really good. That speed 2 move is great for like rushing a point on turn 2 or turn 3, because that bigger vehicle base, and then it's a line of sight blocker. So I've been very happy with how the ATRTs have performed in this list since I've been taking it to a few different events. Let's talk about some of the strengths of this list. It has excellent turn 1 poke, right? Cody's range 4. The ATRTs are scout with a move option and a range 4 shot. The LAT base is big enough that people get surprised at how far it can move speed 2 and then take a range 3 shot. So a lot of the time I'm getting that range 3 shot with the LAT turn 1, which is really good. It's then dumping out a Clone Trooper Infantry with a shotgun. So it gets a speed 1 move off that. And then that's usually enough to get a speed 2 move from there and a range 2 shot turn 1. So a shotgun firing turn 1, always great.
Seems good.
Yeah, it's pretty lethal. ARC Troopers, of course, if the opponent doesn't know what the measuring is, that's a scout 2, move 2, range 2 shot turn 1 as well. So there's a lot of different options for how to kind of poke in that early turn. And then it has a very, very strong turn 2 and turn 3. Um, the other thing too is there's a few pieces that are either just token generators, which is great in clones because you have all that token sharing going on. So the naked squad, either an aim or a dodge, the clone captains handing out 2 surge tokens and either taking an aim or a dodge. So there's a lot of utility around there as well. And a lot of those pieces are also, when you're looking at a list, when you walk up to the table, one of the first things you should be doing is saying, what do I need to take out of my opponents to win the game, right? What is the most threatening piece? And normally the answer to that is, a force user or like a bad batch type unit, some sort of operative. This list is everything is a like B+ tier threat, but nothing is quite cresting into that A range, except for maybe the arcs if they can get to melee. The arcs at range, not so much. The arcs in melee definitely kind of cross that line. And so if one piece gets lost because I made a mistake or something, the dice, flopped or something along the way, I'm not losing too much of the whole, because it is a 12 activation list and everything is really operating with some specific goals in mind. Now the flip side of that is, some of the cons. Red saves are red saves. There's a lot of 4 to 5 health units in this list. Sometimes you just throw 5 red dice and find 5 blanks. That's the reality, right? We play a dice game. The other thing is clones like to stay close to each other. So there's almost an artificial tether that you have to be cognizant of between the different units and make sure that you're not overextending in one area as opposed to another. And really trying to keep that range band both to the enemy and to allied units in mind at all times.
And remind me, clone token sharing is range 2, right?
Yes, it's range 2, 1 token per instance.
Yeah.
So
I play against you and clone players all the time, and I still don't really know how clones work. So
that's okay. I do genuinely feel like unless you've played clones, you don't fully understand the how-to part of it. Because like most of the time you'll play a clone player and they'll be like, oh yeah, I steal a dodge from over here, and okay, you stole a dodge from over there, or a surge or an aim or what have you. But when you have to go through the puzzle of setting that up and making sure that your resources are around, it's almost like a little mini game within the larger game itself.
Yeah, I want no part of that.
That's fair. The other thing is this list functions best at the range 2 band, thanks to those ARC troopers, thanks to, honestly, the LAT as well. Those bunker buster shells get a lot of use in the list too.
Can you pull up bunker buster shells for
Absolutely.
the people watching who don't know what a LAT is or what it throws? Yeah, that's also me included in that group.
Sure. So the bunker buster shells are fixed front. They're blast. They have scatter and cycle. It's range 1 to 2. It throws 3 white and a black.
All right. Seems fine. What's the main gun on the LAT? Remind me.
The main gun on the LAT is 2 red, 2 black.
Okay, there's the consistency.
Impact 1.
Yeah. I was going to say 3 white and a black seems not very good, but adding 2 red and 2 black here.
Yeah, when you're throwing 2 red, 3 black, 3 white with an aim token, that's what the average is, like 5.5, give or take. So if you spike a little bit, let's say you get to 6, right? It's blast. Into a red save target, you're dealing approximately 3 wounds. But almost the more important part is that scatter from the bunker buster shells, allowing you to recohere any remaining models, and that gives your ARC troopers a little bit extra distance to do that charge.
Yeah, and honestly, like I played against a version of this list when I was dabbling in Shadow Collective before the latest update, and like the LAT, anything with armor 5, I feel like I never have enough impact in my list. So like there's no point to me shooting it. And then also it's immune range 1 weapons. And so I had my Magdets in my Black Suns and I was like, okay, sweet. My main like big swing impact source can't hit you. Like, wonderful. I'm just going to ignore you.
Well, I'm hovering in the air.
I mean, yeah, you're standing still. I should be able to hit you, right?
Well, I don't know about all that. But yeah, the lat's also a really interesting piece. One of the things I would be remiss talking about this list and not mentioning is it's a giant base, right? But it's a giant base with cover 1, armor 5, 8 health, surging white saves. We already discussed, impact grenades, things like that. I have a hard time because they can't target the lat. And so it's really great to put secondary objectives on, whether that's marked targets, whether that's recon mission token, things of that nature. That large base really lets it impact a lot of the field. It's
Nice.
also great for throwing down to like block out opponents' movement lanes while the rest of your troops are kind of moving up behind it. It's incredibly fast to get to enemy objective markers on the map. So, for instance, breakthrough, it's just 2 speed 2 moves from your opponent's like objective, and then it just sits there the rest of the game. And that, unless they take out the lat, they are losing a point of scoring every single turn in that game. And that's brutal. The lat is not an easy piece to take away. And the thing is, if you're shooting the lat, you're not shooting the rest of the list,
right?
Which is moving up. And it's still a clone line behind that lat. Like, it's still a problem. One of the greatest weaknesses I've seen in this list so far is really it doesn't like force users. Outside of the ARC troopers charging and trying to one-shot them in melee, I don't have a good answer. But I've, you've known me long enough. I've always been of the opinion of you either try to one-shot or one round a force user to get them off the table, or you just ignore them. The reality is, if your opponent only has 1 unit on the board, while not impossible to win, it is significantly harder. So
that's what I've heard about this game. Yeah, pretty hard to win with 1 unit.
It's not impossible. We had that bat rep not too long ago where Chris won pretty much solely on the back of Bad Batch.
Yeah, that was such a good battle report. Like, I knew the outcome before I started that video, and the whole time I was like, I don't understand how Chris wins this. Like, it was great. Great entertainment.
Things happen.
Yeah.
So, anyway, enough of Live Lat Love. Tell us about your Rogue One shenanigans right now.
I have been building a Rogue One, or playing with a Rogue One list. Let me figure out how to share my screen. There we go. So, it's called Rogue One and the Rogue One. Thank you, Joe, in our group for that name. It starts with Lando as my commander. He is the Rogue One, obviously, or roguish one. I love new Lando, but we'll get there. Next to Lando is Jin with Vigilance and SA, or Situational Awareness. Cassian, Duck and Cover, Up Close and Personal, and his rifle. K2 with Jin's blaster. I am trying to see what AMG is cooking with these fat super squads. So it has Rebel Troopers with the Rebel Trooper squad upgrade, Recon Intel, and the Ion Gun. It has Fleet Troopers with the Scatter Gun and the Fleet Trooper squad. So 2 fat squads. Rebel Vets with the Heavy, Extra Man, and Overwatch. A Mark II. Rebel Troopers with an Ion Gun and a Trooper Captain. 2 Sleepers with Astromech and Prepared Supplies, and 1 Naked Slinger. So it is absolutely a Rebel salad, a little bit of everything. It started out with 3 fat squads. The Vets were originally a super squad as well. And in my first game, I got a nice turn 1 shot with the Vets. All like, what is it? 9 black, 4 white, surging to hit with critical 2. And I threw like 3 hits or something. And I was like, there's no way I am paying this much for a unit that might just throw 3 hits. Like, you're gone immediately. So that allowed me some more room with other units, which I think has worked out well after a few more games with it.
So why, can I ask why situational awareness on Jin? You have 1 point left over. Why not prepared supplies on her instead?
I have found she just gets free dodges too easily. I never find myself wishing I had like one more dodge. She lost a health with the update, obviously. She has 5 health on surging white saves, which is not very good. So she really relies on her agile, her nimble, and her independent move to trigger agile and get that dodge. So I genuinely do not give her orders ever. So she is always starting the turn with a dodge. And I put vigilance on there so that she's realistically starting every turn with 2 dodges, because she will have one left over after turn 1.
Makes sense.
And I mean, yeah, sometimes people just throw crits. It's annoying.
It is something that happens.
And so SA, I've gotten a lot of value out of that over prepared supplies. And like, one of the things that dropping the super squad of vets gave me was prepared supplies on both sleepers. And honestly, I forget that thing like half the time anyways. I've started putting a token on the board and I still forget it. It's I'm a menace to myself. Like, but yeah. So with Lando's one step ahead, well, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. I forgot to mention he has improvised orders, but that is important because we're rebels and we have no order control. And like I said, I'm trying not to give orders to Jin, who's one of my focus pieces. So to help combat that, I have improvised orders. I have 3 operative tokens in the bag. I feel like I probably order Cassian and K2 less than a lot of rebel players. I tend to rely on just a healthy bag randomness. So I've got 3 operatives. I've got 3 special forces, which is why the slingers are in there. And then some core left over. So I really try and order Lando and like a vet usually so that he can pass an order to the Mark II and just help clean up the bag. So the things that I like about this list, or I should say the reason I built it, is for all the new units. Shiny new Lando, shiny new Jin, shiny new Cassian. Even though Cassian didn't really get a lot of upgrades or updates. But what I have found to be the strengths of this list are really the mobility and the positioning more than anything else. Jin's independent move and Lando's one step ahead. I am not a super great Legion player, so I can't really go about anticipating what pip command card my opponent is going to play most of the time. Just genuinely, I don't think about it most of the time. If it matches, sweet. Then anyone on the board gets a speed 1. If it doesn't, Lando gets a speed 1. And that's honestly fine with me. Like, I don't need it to do more than that. It just, I play with that in mind. Like, sometimes leave Lando out in a spot where maybe I'm tempting my opponent to get a little reckless to try and get a shot on him. And then at the start of the turn, when we're doing command cards, like, I'll just move him over here so that he is no longer an option for you. And like, maybe you've overextended. And if I get to move other people, also great. I've got the vets in the Mark II, which are really slow and don't like moving. And so if they can get a free move, that can go a long ways in helping them as well. Or fleets, because they want to get to range 2 and throw 20 dice at somebody's face, which I did in our latest battle report with Chris. And my goodness, when those dice hit. Yeah,
it's a lot of dice. Because that's also Pierce 1, is it not?
It is Pierce 1, yeah. Other things I like, turn 1 damage potential or threat range. Everyone in the world knows about sleepers now. They are a menace. They are too cheap for what they do, honestly. But until they get fixed, I don't know. I think they're too cheap.
They're close. I am a proponent that sleeper cell are probably more fine than people think they are. Maybe 5 points on the cheap side, but not much more than that.
Here's the thing.
There's no glass cannons.
Here is the thing. Maybe I'm like being unreasonable, but the loadout I have on them, I would gladly pay 100 points for them.
I think you might be one of
I,
the only people out there feeling that way.
I
A
that's
hundred
just the way
points
I
for
feel.
that loadout?
For 12 black dice surging hit with the potential, like they make your opponent. So this threat range here, it's forcing my opponents to basically stay within their deployment zone turn one. Like you if you don't want to suffer a sleeper shot to the face. Like Chris
Yeah,
just did in our battle report, he got slightly too aggressive with both of his Black Suns, and I just walked up and blammo. They're down to 2 minis each or something. And it's like, okay, like if you don't want that, you need to be very conservative turn one.
right. But so one of the things, and we can talk about this in a later episode too, is you should be cognizant of your opponent's threat range, right? So sleeper cell are scout 2, move 2, range 2 shot, right?
Mm-hmm.
The effective threat range of that is just slightly more than range 4. So if you're moving onto the board and you're allowed to put down a movement tool and a range tool,
Right.
if you put range 4 from your opponent's closest board edge deployment area that sleeper cells could come walk in off of, right? If you stay just a little bit back from that range 4, which is approximately a speed 2 move and then a speed 2 move, but it's only a partial, you leave about
Mm-hmm.
a quarter inch to a half inch off that, sleeper cell can't touch you. And then there's an entire turn of not doing anything. So I think they're definitely extremely effective against people who don't know their measurement, but I think at the higher end of the competitive spectrum, they've fallen off a little bit in terms of their turn one surprise punch potential.
Yeah, I don't think they're surprising anyone anymore, which is good. They shouldn't be.
Right.
But I think what me having sleepers, and I play assault turn one, so I know they get orders. So
They
they're
have
going
orders,
last.
you hold them to the end. Mm-hmm.
And so me having sleepers forces my opponent, like you said, to stay out of that range band. And then that allows the rest of my units, I can get pretty aggressive with Lando and K2 infiltrating, Cassian, Jin infiltrating. Like they can go up the board pretty safely if they find some line of sight blockers too. And even like fleets can just double move. And then I've got standbys on Mark IIs and vets to do just kind of give you that extra bit of caution, I guess.
Okay.
And so like that's kind of my reasoning for the threat range. It's like you have to respect the sleepers, which means the rest of my units can hopefully, assuming I'm playing the game correctly, which is not always a given, can hopefully get into good position and allow me to do good things on turn two.
Okay. So what are some of the drawbacks of the list then? Is there anything that you're struggling with?
Absolutely. I'm a rebel player and I'm like a mediocre quality. So my good dice pools are small dice pools. Lando, Cassian, Jin, it's your standard hero, not Jedi problem. Like you have small dice pools.
3 to 4 dice. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Lando lost his Pierce and his Sharpshooter in the update. He throws more dice, which is wonderful. But now he's range 2 with long shot, throwing dice with no Pierce and no Sharpshooter. So like, honestly, his offense is still better, but it's still a small dice pool of what's going to end up punching through cover probably. And then my big dice pools. So I love my Rebel Troopers Fat Squad with the Ion and Recon Intel because they can scout, move, and then range three, dump 11 black and 1 white into someone. Granted,
pretty good.
Historically, in my recent games, they're averaging like 4 hits, and it's wildly underwhelming.
Well, you said what is it? You said 11.
It's 11 black and a white with critical 1.
With critical
Otherwise,
1, so
surging.
You're looking at approximately 6 should be the average hits.
Yeah, I think my expectations are a little too high because I've thrown a fistful of dice, and usually that number of dice is sleepers, and so it's like, oh, okay, I'm used to that.
Well,
and like,
It's like when you throw a double stuffed Geo Squad and you throw 20 dice, but when you do
Richard,
the
that
math, you realize
only
you only
applies to
expect one
you
hit.
this week because nobody's doing double stuffed geos right now.
You don't know. Maybe
Okay,
that's the
true.
next thing.
Maybe
That's
that's
the
the next
next
thing.
challenge.
But my big dice pools, like I was saying, are pretty swingy and not reliable. Fat fleets are great. When you pick up 20 dice, it's a wonderful feeling in your hands and elsewhere. Um, but 18 of those are white dice. They could
Mhm.
very well all blank, and maybe your red dice hit. But conversely, you could be hitting like 12 of those or something ridiculous, and you
Right.
just make a unit go poof. So inconsistent big dice pools. The smaller dice pools are pretty reliable, but in the world of Legion that we live in, you've got to be able to delete units relatively quickly sometimes, and this list can struggle with that. Except for sleepers, of course.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And other things, I have two other main kind of weaknesses in my eye. All of my command cards are situational, except for assault. So if I scroll down here, I've got. I usually end up playing Ace Up His Sleeve turn 2, just because all of my Last Stand, Crackshot, Rebellions Are Built on Hope, those are all like they have a very specific situation in which they are useful and shine.
Mm-hmm.
And so outside of that, and Corellian Spike, I would love to get rid of that card, but I think the Infiltrate and Incognito is too good. And so I usually play Ace Up His Sleeve just so I have priority, and it gives out 2 orders, which is pretty good. I throw it on a vet, and that gives it to a Mark II. So now suddenly I have a standby castle, or not a castle, but I have a standby sitting there for people to be aware
you have
of.
a standby zone that your opponent has to decide
Right.
whether or not they want to walk into.
And if they shoot it off or walk into it, Lando can guidance it back on, which is very amusing to me. Just because, like, you're really trying to take off this standby of 4 dice that could easily blank. It happens to me often enough, and like, but people don't want to get shot for free, and so they want to shoot the standbys off.
True.
So my command cards are pretty situational, which means sometimes that situation just doesn't come up, and you're just playing a card, and it's like this. I know this can be very good. It's not doing
much for me.
Yeah, exactly. And my other kind of weakness that I see is armor. I don't have reliable answers into armor. I have the vets and the Mark II with critical 2 each, and the ion. My main armor defense is ions. Like, if I just cut your actions in half, that's great. That's a win. I'm not going to kill any armored unit in the game with this list, probably, unless I really try, which...
Unless you get lucky or you dedicate everything to it.
Exactly. And I tend to not do that. Like, when I played you in your list, for other reasons, besides not having impact grenades reach your lat, like, I pretty much ignored the ATRTs and the lat, and just my general MO is to chew through all the other things. So I think it's okay, but if I go into a really heavy armor list, I'm going to be struggling for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. We had one more list prepared. Do we want to jump on over to that, and we'll wrap up the current section?
Yeah, I mean, you can talk about it, I think, briefly, maybe a little quicker than we just did those two. I think those are our main lists right now. But yeah, if you want to talk about your other love,
the highlights. So for those of you that are listening in, it's Empire, 12 activations, Director Krennic with improvised orders and electric binoculars, Iden Versio with vigilance, prepared supplies, her little droid ID-10, and emergency transponders, Agent Callus with tenacity and environmental gear, a Death Trooper squad with the DLT, Recon Intel, and their free blaster, another Death Trooper with the same DLT, Recon Intel, free blaster, but this one with HQ uplink, 2 scouts with the Sonic Charge Saboteurs and fragmentation grenades, 2 strike teams with the snipers, a stormtrooper with Gideon Hask, and 2 stormtroopers with T-21s. So
amazing.
It's yeah, we have a friend that loves Iden, and with the new Iden coming out, he really wanted something that he could make work. So this list has a really strong turn one alpha strike, which gets you into a great position. That tactical strike turn one with the Death Troopers being able to recon intel, move, range four shot with multiple aims. The Scout Troopers, so the speed reduction from Iden's card doesn't stop the Scout 3 move. So your Scout Troopers can Scout 3, speed 1, which is effectively another speed 3, range 2 shot, 10 black, sharpshooter 1, 3 aims. It's a really strong alpha strike. Amazing command hand. It's got bounty, really decent order control, honestly, across the board.
Yeah, I was going to say, for those who tend to struggle following along verbally, how many orders does this list spit out just on a generic command card, or usually, I guess?
Yeah, so if we're talking about the tax strike turn, right? Turn one, you've got an order on Iden, you've got an order on both scouts. Krennic is putting an order on one of the Death Troopers, the other Death Troopers popping HQ uplink. Then Agent Kallus now has direct to core troopers, so you're putting an order on the stormtrooper with Gideon Hask, and then he has coordinate, so you're putting an order on a different stormtrooper with the T-21. So turn one, you're putting out 7 orders in Empire, which is significant.
That is, yeah, that's insane. I would love to be able to do that in Rebels.
If you are setting things up correctly and managing your distance between squads well, you are getting 3 free orders from this list every turn outside of your command cards, which is very strong.
Yeah, that's so good.
All of the command cards from these 3 characters have a place within the command hand, which is both a strength and a weakness of the list. It's hard to kind of fine tune what is going to be most useful. It's really good at leaving units alive on 1 to 2 wounds, which is what kind of Iden and the strike teams are kind of there for, with that Pierce and trying to just hit 1 with high velocity. It doesn't have a great anti-melee threat outside of maybe Kallus. 5 health, red saves. I mean, Pierce melee can sort of play that role, but he's not going to win that fight. He's just going to delay that fight.
In general, Empire, as is usually the case, struggles with Pierce in general. Like, Death Troopers hate Pierce. And
anything with Pierce and Death Trooper just makes the Death Trooper player sad. God, I wish they had Impervious. They are more expensive than Arcs. I get that they have surging red saves, but that lack of Impervious really kind of hurts. But that's, a look into some other lists and the styles of how we build.
Yeah, I love that list.
Print the Block.
As someone who clones, I don't mean this to be offensive to any clone out there, but all the lists and clones look the same to me. And so it's just kind of, I know they're different. I know that. I know. Sometimes they have a lat in them. But
to be fair, Clone Trooper Infantry, and this will, be one of our upcoming topics, up until the Marksman come out, they've been really the only Clone Trooper out there for Republic players to build with, right? They're the only core unit. So, every list is going to start with at least 3 of them, unless you're playing Wookiees, but that's neither here nor there.
I feel like again, I am not the I understand every faction kind of Legion player, but when I see clones, it's like, oh, you're bringing Anakin, or are you bringing, I don't even, what's another type of clone? I guess Cody is another type of clone list. And I understand those 2 pieces are different, and the rest is just okay, yeah, it's clones. There's probably a shotgun. You've got arcs, and fill in the rest.
I don't know. The current world champion had a very different looking clone list that he swept Adepticon with. So I think there's a little bit more.
Like I said, there's a reason I'm not winning events.
I do think there's more variability within the faction than the general community has given credit to Republic right now.
We're going to cover some more unique things on this podcast eventually. But I
Absolutely.
have to give a shout out to Ollie. When I heard about his 6-act Republic list, like,
Yes.
I love that so much. I'm like, yes, finally a clone list that I can look at, and it doesn't just like make my brain fog with like, okay, yeah, you have X number of units with this and this. Like, that is just a wild list. And the fact that he has done well with it is amazing to me. And I don't know if you have the testicular fortitude to put it on the table and play it well, but I would love to see you or someone in our group try, because
I was gonna say Travis and I have both been talking about it. It's on the to-do list just to see what that looks like, because it's a monster. For those of you that don't know, go listen to That's No Moon, one of their most recent casts, and Ollie does a good job of talking about like what that looked like for him throughout a tournament.
Yep.
But
yeah, that's basically us. We are apparently really good at talking about the lists we are currently playing, because we've kind of run longer than expected already. So I guess just to close things out, I thought it would be fun to pick something we're into besides Legion, and just share a bit about it, or what you're enjoying about it, because I love talking Legion with my Legion friends, but it's always fun to find out other mutual interests with our Legion nerds. So I'll let you start. What have you been into lately?
I mean, anyone who knows me knows that I love reading. So I've always got 1 to 3 books that I'm working through at any given time.
Oh, that reminds me, Richard. How is your Stormlight reading going?
Yeah, well, man, I know you love Sanderson.
Stormlight is so good. Sorry, I don't want to step on your what you're into thing, but
it just doesn't scratch the itch for me. So I'm about
that's
to
a
pick
wild
up...
statement, because you love Lord of the Rings, and Stormlight is literally his Lord of the Rings-esque.
Listen, man, I know. I need one day I'll go back and I'll pick it up again. I think one of the things is I need to get a copy of the book that isn't like the tiny mini travel version.
Okay, yeah.
Where the font's like font 5. That doesn't help.
I might expand my collection at some point, because I have like 3 of the books are in that nice big size. So if I get a book 1 that's a bigger one, I'll let you borrow it.
I appreciate that. But yeah, no, I love reading. I love books. If you have book recommendations, send them my way. Unless it's Stormlight Archives. Eric's got that covered, guys. Don't worry.
I'm fighting the good fight, everyone. Yes. What are you reading?
What about you? Tell the world about Earthborn Rangers.
I am not Earthborn. I'm waiting for my Kickstarter to arrive in probably a month or 2. So I'm not doing a lot of Earthborn Rangers stuff right now. We'll cover that eventually. But right now, I would be remiss to say anything other than Andor. I just finished my completion of season 2 last night, and my goodness, it's so freaking good. Like,
as close to perfect of a TV show as there is, honestly.
Yeah, my wife and I, we play a lot of board games when we have the energy for it. I also have 2 kids under 4, for anyone who doesn't know. So like, my free time, my Legion time is limited. My board game time is limited, but we do usually play board games a couple times a week after the kids go to bed. And we have not done that recently because we've been watching Andor with every free night that we have.
I mean, a good use of your time, if ever there was.
It's so good. Tomorrow night we're going to be watching Rogue One again, because you got to.
As you should. It's so good.
So that is us. That's episode 1. Thank you all, for anyone who's listening. I don't know if this is going to take off or not, but here we are doing it. Thank you for joining us on this adventure. Like Richard said earlier, you can find us on YouTube at our Crit to Block channel. Our website. Yep. Is it crittoblock.com?
Send us an email if you really want to get in contact.
That's true. What's our email, Richard?
Well, I should know this off the top of my head.
It is crittoblock@gmail.com.
Yep, sure.
Just
is crittoblock@gmail.com.
A normal email for a company called Crit
I am as technologically challenged as they come.
Yes.
It's sad, but yeah.
That was amazing.
Anyway, things to look forward to in future episodes. Focuses on specific unit building. What are some loadout possibilities? What can we do with them? Guest visits from other members of our group to offer some of their expertise. And we have a lot of diverse players within our group with different opinions. So we're going to get them in here and kind of push back on some of the other things that we say. And then we're going to talk about list building in a changing meta, because there's a lot coming out this year. The Legion scene a year from now is going to look so radically different.
It's going to be hot.
So how do new players address changes in a quick and relative manner is going to be really a focus in the coming weeks and months.
Yep. Thank you, Richard, for pointing that out, because I skipped right over that in our outline. It's episode 1. We're all learning here. Thank you again, everyone. And thank you, Richard. We will do this again in 2 weeks.
Look forward to it.
All right. Thank you all. Just do the Stabcast outro.
Just do a Ben outro. I was gonna say we should have done the and don't get to crit the block.
Opportunity lost, even though I'm still recording. Anyways, I'm gonna stop now.